Hello and welcome to another free code session. My name is Jason Bach and I'm going to do some more testing. In fact, I got down here and started to just start writing tests. And I went, wait a minute, I should be recording this. But before I record this, I'm going to record a new issue, which is handle property correctly if the types are in the same assembly, then they can see internal properties. I'm not handling this right now. Need to fix that. Do I want to add it for 1.0 or 2.0? 1.0. Why not? Let's get back to some tests here. Okay. So it's very early in the morning, but I wanted to, we want to change that. And we want to say ID destination type destination. I get a little concerned when I'm trying to do tests that match on like exception message values or things like that, because those can kind of change and they're really not that super important, I guess. But I could also convince myself where I could think they are, because you want your exception message or error message or whatever you're using to have good content. I don't know how many times you've seen an error and go, I have no idea what this means. You end up looking it up online, and hopefully somebody else has figured out what it's really trying to tell you. You know, that's again where unit tests is not just about making sure your code is correct, although that's a big part of it, or that it's acting the way you expect it to. It's also, how does the experience feel? What's it like? Is this a good experience? Is it not so good? You know, that's kind of what you're trying to get out of this. Okay, so source getter is not public. Oh yeah, so this is a kind of a finer example of this. So what we want to say here is this is public and that's public, but the source getter is not. Yeah. And then we want to do the same thing for destination setter, because we have to be able to do that. If we can't see the value to get it, or see the property to set it. No, in this case it would be because we see the destination property, but we'll never see the source one, so we'll see the destination and go, yeah, that never happened. I believe. It's in the morning, it's early right now, so trying to get an episode in before the day job. Generated when destination is non-public, no argument constructor. Okay. So let's go up to the happy path. I will admit, running tests without having the test explorer and just doing it from the command line, I find kind of painful, to be honest. Okay, so we want to say private destination. Now we kind of want to grab one of these, sort of. Except that's the one we want. We should find one. Wait a minute. No, that's, yeah. Well, what happens in that case? I forgot. We don't find the construct. We still try to do the maps. So we're going to find 1. Finding that should be fine. We don't really care about the message, but we should see that we didn't get any output. Because, well, that's true. Oh yeah, we don't get any output if there were errors. Well, if we didn't get a tree. Okay. Generate when destination is public multiple. So now we say it's public, but it takes a value. Generate when source does not map all properties. Okay, so this should be something like this. And in this case, we should see success, but we're going to see mapping issues. So it's kind of like a combination. So we want to see like public string name get set. Okay, but we also want to come up here and say that we should find that, right? But we're only going to find 1. We did find property maps, but the one that we found was for name. Okay. This is when naming things is bad. Generate when types do not match. I think what I'm saying here is when property types do not match. Let's be clear on what we're going to be doing here. So now we're going to throw the destination up there. And now it should say destination. Wait a minute. Oh yeah, on the destination type, destination. Okay, yeah. But we should still see maps. Okay. And now on the property types do not match. So this is just saying, let's make this an int. Okay. So we should see 3 in this case, I believe. I think. So the names match, the accessibilities are good, but you can't actually match them. And both of them can't be matched, so we're going to go, well, they both suck. So we should see the output. We should find one that say there are no property maps, but we should find one. We're not going to find single here because we're going to find 2 of them. And do I really care about the name? I'm thinking not. What we do want to do though is say, in this case, getting the message where it says source type source. Okay. What don't you like about that? Oh yeah. And yeah, there we go. That should take care of it. We don't have enough here. Oh yeah, we don't. Okay. And okay, that's good. That's okay, so we do single here. We're saying, oh God, why do you do this to me? I don't know. It's early in the morning. You're still not happy. Why are you not happy? Oh, because it should be here and then it should be there. Okay. But then we want one that says destination type destination. Okay. I went to the command prompt, but every time I do Alt backtick, it's bringing up a new version of the terminal, and I don't know why. It's kind of annoying. Let's see how many fail now. 6. It's not as bad. Generator destination has non-public argument constructor, right? So it's in the single. Oh, yeah, it's the wrong thing. That would make it a problem. Okay. I think it's the same thing on this one. Yeah. Generate when destination setter is not public. I'm expected to, but not 0. Well, that's kind of surprising, because let's run it again. Just see if we get rid of those 2. We do. Okay, so at least we're making some progress. That's good. It's not public. Ah, yes. Well, you have a set method, but we never looked at the could it ever be null? Yeah, of course it could. So we want to do the same thing here. And get method declared accessibility is equal to. I guess you don't really care about the accessibility of the property itself. You really only care about the getter and the setter, I would imagine. It seems kind of overkill. Let's see. 2, yeah, we're better now. So okay, so what is actually failing now? Generate with records, yeah, well, we know that. Okay, so generate with records and then generate with structs. Oh, that's right, because, yeah, so I think we're almost done. Because with a struct, you don't have that. Come on, I thought I pulled that up. Does not contain that and does not contain that. Okay. So now we should just see 1. And that one I'm just going to have to say ignore or whatever because 1, cool. Okay, so now I want to put, in this case, this is where I want to do an ignore because I want the test to fail because it's supposed to fail, but don't work right now. Need to wait for a resolution. Okay. And the reason this doesn't work test explorer doesn't work in VS 2019 preview at the moment. And .NET test doesn't run the generators. So we're going to put this code in because it should still build. Oh, I forget when I switch on my keyboard the function key thing over. It's the one thing about the sculpt keyboard that I don't like, but I wish it would have just had a function thing that switched the function. Yeah, there's an error. Of course there's an error. What's the error? So it builds, but it doesn't still get the error. Whatever. Kind of disappointing. I'm going to put, can you put feedback in for the preview version? You should be able to. Because I am. I'm going to do that because this is getting to be annoying. All right, so I'm going to put in feedback for the unit testing problem that I'm seeing here because it's getting to be kind of a pain in the butt that I can't use the Test Explorer in preview, and I have no idea why. It shows all the tests, but it doesn't, it just keeps giving that error that I'm like, I don't even know how to get around that. So, yeah, we'll just have to leave it as is for now. But I think I've done as much as I can for my tests. I don't really know if I've covered every case, but I think I've come up with a couple of other issues that I now have tracking within NuGet. So I'm sorry, not NuGet, GitHub. Too many terms. So I have all the issues as far as I know in there. And there's a couple more I can work on with this. One other idea that I had, because I was messing around with, well, what else could I do for source generators? And there was something that I did a while ago. It's kind of around this concept of ToString. Okay, that doesn't exist right now. But what ToString, the idea I had, this was for a library that I have called injectors. It's probably going to, it's something that I don't add to anymore, because if you really want to do weaving, there's better options. Fody is one of them. And so the idea with ToString was you put this attribute on your class, and what it would do is generate a ToString method for you. Now, you can do this with source generators. You have to be a little careful that your class now has to be marked as partial, because you're going to generate a partial class that, if ToString wasn't defined already, you're now going to define it. Okay, so that's another one I want, that, to me, that's more of a, it's actually, I think, I don't want to say safer, but it's fairly germane, if you know what I mean. But that's kind of the one, excuse me, oh boy, tired. It's kind of the one where you're trying to show the value of source generators, because it's removing repetitive code. And in a way, this object mapping stuff is also trying to remove repetitive code. But it's also there to get a performance benefit. Like the ToString one is, well, concatenate all the public property getters and return them as like ID equals this, name equals this, and maybe you could have a property, you could have a attribute that says ignore for ToString, and then you don't include that property in the ToString. Or when the ToString, you list the properties that you don't want to include. Otherwise, it'll just assume it. Stuff like that. And that's just to remove germane, redundant, crappy code that we all want ToStrings to look similar. But, if you have to write that yourself all the time, you're going to write it as reflection probably, and then, you get less of a performance benefit. So, yeah, you can just hardwire the ToString in and then, but it's code that somebody doesn't have to think about anymore. Yeah, it is one thing I'm a little interested in too, is if you start to, like what I was showing with this object mapper in the tests, the performance tests, I should say. If I show this, let me come back here. And if I go to the performance test one, and I say mapping tests, I have this one mapping reflection, which was kind of the same idea. Okay, actually I have to update this slightly because I want to make sure that the accessibilities are the same, but that doesn't matter. Okay, the point is that that code is generalistic in that you give it a destination type and a source type, and it will work the same for all of them, but reflection's a little slow. But I've just written this piece of code. So if I start doing this for hundreds, if not thousands of types in my code, I'm going to be generating more code in my assembly. What's the trade-off? Is that bloat? I don't say bloat, that's a negative term, but is that increase in source code? Is that going to affect anything with runtime performance in terms of jitting, loading the assembly, or is that, there's got to be some point where if you're generating so much source code that it's actually not beneficial to use a source generator and maybe to use something like reflection. But I don't really know. That's a complicated question. And I don't have an answer for that right now. But in any event, it's getting near the time to start doing the day job. So I'm going to commit this stuff and move on. All right. And I'm hoping to move on to rocks. I really want to, did I remove that ToString thing? Yeah, I did. I really want to start doing that. Now that I've done this, I think I'm close to starting to work on rocks. The thing I need to figure out is what I want is if you say rock.create iService. No. Okay. And it's when you write this, we look for the method invocation on the rock type with create. We then look at the generic and say, well, if we've never generated source for this, then let's just generate it or overwrite it. I don't know how source generators actually work. But we want to generate all the extension methods and we want to generate the actual subtype. So that's going to be, it's going to be the tricky part, because within rock create, how does it know? Well, yeah, how does it know what to do right there? But then also when you have the, I don't know if I say rock and then I don't know what and then you want to make like this. Okay. At that point too, how does rocks know how to actually create an instance of that? I'm going to have to do some funky stuff where it says, well, the source type, the base class was this, and I know my naming convention is going to be this. So find that and then just load the type and create an instance of it. Those are the two, I think, actually main problems in my head. Ironically, the rest of it, I think, should be not easy, because I suddenly have to change from reflection all to the Roslyn API, so I'm generating everything at compile time. But so it's going to be a major rewrite from that perspective. but I already know how to do a lot of that stuff in terms of the code's already there. It's still going to be work, but I really want to get into that because I think that's going to be a much more complicated example, but beneficial because of things I mentioned in the document that's up on the Rocks repo. Anyway, got to get to the day job. So thank you all for watching. Leave comments and questions below. See you in the next episode.